Yeah, that's smart. Give them what they want so that then they can get their clip to start the whole thing with, that they'll use in the cold open, and then they'll have to watch you talk normal.
Welcome back, friends, to the final season of Big Mouth.
Maury, can you believe it?
It's the end of a very gross era.
Nick, sir, congratulations and welcome to the Awards Editor podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
I have to say congratulations because 8 seasons and a spinoff. I think I counted 79, almost 80 plus voices that you've done throughout the course of the series. As you approach this final moment and folks are about to experience this for the last time, how are you feeling about it?
I have mixed feelings about it. I'm sad that it's over because this is where the mixed part is. It's been such an incredibly joyful experience to make this show for this many episodes with so many of my dearest friends or people that I've admired for a long time. It's been a true joy. So it's sad that it's over, but also inside of what we were trying to do with the show, it makes sense that it had to keep evolving and changing, and new things would then pop up from it.
I love that. You're coming into the final season. I've seen a little bit. I think I got it to episode 4. I didn't want to get too far before I got there. I think this is an interesting point where we find Andrew and Nick, and that's weird to say that in front of you, Nikki. Andrew's a bad friend. He's flirted with being a bad friend throughout the series. This is the guy that opening episode was masturbating next to his friend. So we weren't.
It doesn't necessarily make you a bad friend. It just makes you someone with needs who needed to fulfill those needs in an immediate fashion.
Beg to disagree.
Yeah.
If I was the friend,
I'm
kidding. But talk about where you're sort of placing that character this season, because I think it's really interesting.
Well, so the kids are now have moved on to high school.
Yep.
And which Andrew Goldberg and I, who I created the show with, we went to the same elementary and middle school, and then we went to different high schools. And we then were trying to navigate how to keep a very close, important friendship while then being in a new place. And at the beginning of this season, we find Nick at one school and Andrew at another. And that change is a hard one, especially, I will say, with the experience of having been a freshman boy. Freshman boys are very low on the totem pole in high school. And so you're really grasping for anything that you can connect with. And so Andrew is struggling. Nick's at a new school, and he's made a new friend whose name also is Andrew, voiced by Zach Woods. And Andrew Glauberman is feeling insecure about that and takes that to pretty extreme measures. But I weirdly, I have real empathy for Andrew in this, and because I remember meeting Andrew Goldberg's friends when he got to high school and being like, these guys are awesome, and he's found such a good group, and do I have that same level of friendship and trust with the friends that I've made now in my new high school? And so it's sort of again, trying to keep the show evolving and with kids going through puberty and adolescence, so much is always shifting, that it was a great opportunity to continue to tell stories about these evolving kids and also these evolving friendships.
Yeah, and I mean, they're all doing that. I used Andrew as the big one because there's a lot in the first episodes. And listen, your character, Nikki, is the one that says that he's a bad friend. That's the ending of the first episode. Spoiler alert a little bit. But the thing I think is interesting about it is it's for the first time we've really seen them at odds that could break them as a friendship. Yeah. And I know we're going to kind of explore that in the season. What was that like revisiting it with Andrew and yourself? I'm sure every aspect of the show is like that, where you're trying to think about what actually happened versus what we're going to invent. This one feels like it was really personal. It probably was more difficult than maybe some other stuff.
Yeah, I think in an earlier season we dealt with this thing of camp friends. I went to a camp and then Andrew came to the same camp, and that happened to us in real life. And we had a friend at camp that we condensed what in real life took 4 or 5 years, where Andrew and my friend Danny became closer friends with each other than they were with me. And we had on the show, this character ended up being played by Seth Rogen. We condensed that into 2 or 3 episodes, but that was a real test of me and Andrew's friendship, at least it was for me. And so this, again, was sort of an extension of that. And really, this show is about, this group of friends. It's about puberty, but it really is, so much of it is about friendship. And especially in this time when you're in middle school and entering high school, these friendships are so important and the stakes feel so high that it's always been it's been a really generative area of like, is their friendship in peril, and like, can they maintain the friendship? Because that's what will like keep them moving safely through this incredibly choppy time in life.
Yeah, and I think that's also why I do feel the empathy you talk about with Andrew, and like I'm thinking about it, it's like, oh, why are you doing that? Like I'm like, but then I realize like that's why you do that, so that he could then be the way y'all are at your age and looking back and being like, why do we do that? Well, he had to, so now you can have a lesson.
I mean, that's the beauty of that friendship is, and looking at this last season, they're really entering this unknown eventually at the end of the season. But I somehow, while it's scary to enter the unknown, I have the knowledge that like 25 years later, Andrew and I are going to come back together and make this show that changed both of our lives in such massive ways. And also, we always were friends, but reconnected us in this incredibly impactful way to make this thing together that is like so gratifying.
I love that. I want to talk a little bit more about Big Mouth, but I also want to talk about really your whole filmography, because I think it's so interesting, some of the stops that you've taken along your career. And I really appreciate, you joke about that you don't want to see yourself on camera or whatever, but one of my favorite moments of the series was when you broke the fourth wall with yourself and was like telling, that was where I was like, okay, that was the cute, like, adolescence puberty show, but when you hit that, I was like, this is BoJack Horseman, like, I need to think about my life and things like that. Like, this is too much. But I'm curious for you, what has been the most satisfying moment for you in the production like that? Because to me, when I tell people like what's great about the series, I was like, wait till you get to that point in the arc. It's really kind of interesting.
Well, we shot that was a season that we made like deep in the throes of COVID. So we had shot that as an animated version of adult Nick Kroll that Nick Birch kind of comes into contact with, and it just wasn't hitting. And it was we shot it at the height of COVID. It was the first time I'd been on a set. It was ironic that I was on a set for an animated show.
Yeah.
So it was a very weird experience to be a part of, and also very moving to like, because we really made. The beauty of animation is we never stopped. As soon as COVID started and there was a lockdown, we kept working because we could continue working. But then to be in person with everybody to shoot that moment and this very meta moment in the series was also very strange and powerful. And it was a season that we made that was all about anxiety, and it was happening ironically during the election in 2020. We knew it was going to be the election. We didn't know it was also going to be in the throes of COVID. So it was a very meta and very emotional time to make something.
I felt like that was the pinnacle of the show as far as like it showing like this is the cool things that this show can do as far as getting you to think about your own childhood.
Sure.
What is it for you? This whole thing is a reflection of your childhood. What do you think is sort of like one of the pinnacle moments of it?
Oh, man. Well, I mean, there have been various parts that have been like therapeutic and really like trying to understand my own emotional landscape as I, become a husband and a father, and really like those hold up mirrors to you of like how you behave and who you are in a way that when you're sort of navigating the world as an individual person, you're allowed a lot more leeway. And I think the show helping me put a name and a face to a lot of these emotional things that I'm going through, whether it's like, boy, I'm feeling this anxiety mosquito right now, or the shame wizard is quite present with me, or my hormone monster is coming through. Like all of those things, or the depression kitty feels heavy on my chest, or whatever, like that has been an incredibly both like gratifying artistically, but also very useful just as trying to navigate my own life and my own feelings. So that's been cool. And really, I mean, again, I go back, the pinnacle of it was, I feel like a lot of people in show business are making things so that they can show people that they can make this thing so they get an opportunity to make something else versus like just making the thing you're making.
Yeah.
And I think this show has been, for me, a real exercise in learning, like, this is the stop. Like, I got to make an animated show with the most talented people in the world who are some of my best friends in the world. Like, I'm not making this so that I can make something else. Like, this is it.
Yeah.
And knowing that the process of making it and how we tried to make it with like love and respect and open-mindedness and joy and making it funny was in fact the kind of the greatest gift of the thing. And then watching it go out into the world and seeing how it affected people, both like, oh, this made me laugh, or it made me feel this, or made me think about this in a new way, or genuinely people being like, this made me feel not so alone, continues to be incredibly gratifying.
Another thing I find really gratifying, not to cheapen what you said at all, because it was really beautiful and poignant, is I love how much you give it to your bosses. Like, Netflix gets licks every single season. And I'm just curious, has anyone ever said to you, like, hey, maybe don't, to the people that write the checks?
Yeah, like, hey, we keep giving you artistic freedom and money to make this, maybe, but no, we've never. Netflix, we were able to start this show. We've done 8 seasons plus 2 seasons of Human Resources, but we will have become the longest running scripted series in Netflix history. I think we're the 33rd or 34th show, original programming for Netflix. So we came on at a time when they were like, I don't think Big Mouth could have happened anywhere else.
Wow.
Because I think that period of time when we came on Netflix, we had such incredible freedom. They really wanted us to push it and go for it, and we did at every opportunity. And they really never edited us. They never restricted us. There was a couple jokes along the way that they were like, could you maybe? And we would like watch the color, screening of them. We're like, yeah, okay, fair enough. That's genuinely disgusting. But whether it was, references to them or whatever, they were cool with. In fact, the closest we got to notes was like, can you not badmouth another streamer?
Oh, wow. So they're like, we'll take our licks. Just don't give the business to
and also
stars.
It was like, this is a big old fucking hit for Netflix, so they can take it. In an era when there's no real back end, they can take a lick or two. Wow. I think everyone's going to be just fine at Netflix.
Facts. You know what? Facts. Yeah. They're not stopping.
With deep love and respect to Ted and everyone.
I love it. But
also genuine love and respect to Ted and everyone involved in the show. They genuinely have been unbelievable partners. And making a show that was truly dirty and filthy and took massive swings. They really supported us at every turn.
I love it. And I definitely love the fact that I can tell anyone in any country to watch it, and regardless of where they live and like their cultural sentiments, like that's the other thing. It translates. Like, it's the perfect global show in that respect. And I love that. I want to talk about some of the other stuff that you've been involved in. And one in particular, because this was actually the very first film that I covered in this job. And so I have like a deep love for it. Jeff Nichols' Loving.
Oh, yeah, of course.
And you were on that set. And that's a movie that I feel, especially now, like people should revisit it and like talk about it. And your role in that one is such a quiet one, but such an important one. Just take me back to what it was like being on his set.
Ironically, what I was saying of like, you do things so that maybe you get another gig or whatever. And when I made Kroll Show, a sketch show, and Jeff, I got a call out of nowhere being like, Jeff Nichols would like to meet with you about this new movie he's making. And I like love Jeff's movies. Yeah. Like, he's a true consummate filmmaker in a way that there are not many, there's nobody like him, but specifically the kind of movies he makes and how he makes them, it's a really special individual process. So he called and was like, hey, I'd love to talk to you about this movie. And he had been a fan of Kroll Show and thought through that I could play this lawyer, Bernie Cohen, and takes the Loving's case to the Supreme Court to fight the anti-miscegenation laws in specifically in Virginia. And it was a story that I had known a bit about, but I was like so excited by the opportunity to work with him and to work with Ruth Negga and Joel Edgerton, who star in the movie, are both unbelievable actors, to tell this super important, beautiful, incredibly resonant story. So it was like, that was a dream. It was like, because I love doing comedy, I love making cartoons, I love doing everything I get to do, but I really do also love acting, and the opportunity to do that kind of role isn't something that comes naturally to the comedians. Like they don't always go to the comics for those movies and parts, and it's like you want to be a part of them, and to make it with someone like Jeff, who has such a beautiful process in how he makes a film and how he makes the actors feel on set, and the crew is almost the same crew he's worked with over and over, and the films are beautiful.
Yeah, no, I love his sentiment as a filmmaker, and just like I love, like I can't think of anything that he's done that I don't love, and I love that he's a student of the American South.
Yeah.
I really kind of dig that.
And he's like this really kind of soft-spoken guy from Little Rock, Arkansas. You're just like, but then he makes these really beautiful, passionate, emotional movies.
Yeah, I dig that too. Another thing I actually wanted to talk to you too about that is I think you wear so many hats. You're a showrunner, a writer, producer, an actor. Do you just always classify yourself as a comic? Like you're a stand-up and like all of these other things are just the things you've tackled on it? Or where do you, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. No, it's funny when I have to like, it's funny, like, when you have to write, like, what you are on, like, some sort of government form. It's like, well, I don't know. I mean, I guess it really depends on the day. I don't think of myself as, like, a comedian first and then a da-da-da-da. I mean, I think it really is the ebb and flow of, frankly, what I'm promoting or talking about or what I'm doing at that particular moment. And what I love about my career and what I feel very fortunate about is I get to wear all these different hats. So whatever it is I'm doing at that moment is incredibly exciting. And I don't feel like I'm constantly repeating myself. Like, in this case, we're talking about Big Mouth, which I loved making an animated show. I love voicing it. But I also have other interests and endeavors. And I can focus on Big Mouth and then go and go shoot a movie. Like I'm in this movie, I Don't Understand You, coming out with Andrew Rannells, where like a couple who go on a trip to Italy for like it seems like a kind of a rom-com. We're trying to adopt a baby. Then we end up at this old lady's house in Orvieto and like goes off the rails. And the movie becomes like kind of a thriller farce. And it was really fun to just go, not a producer, not an actor, not a producer, not a writer, not a director. I just got to go and act with Andrew and have a blast making this film.
Love that.
And then I have worn a bunch of different hats doing Big Mouth, which I've loved every element of doing that. And then there's a show that I produced and directed some of called Adults that's coming out on FX.
Saw that. Yeah.
And these are all coming out in a span of like 3 weeks. It's Big Mouth, then Adults, and then I Don't Understand You.
I was gonna ask you about these, so I love that you're the perfect PR person.
I'll just churn through it. I'll make it seem slightly natural, but still incredibly promoty. But let's just get to the point. You know what I mean? So, but I do think that weirdly, I will say it answers your question. I hope in that it symbolizes the various things that I do. It's comical that these three things are all coming in a 3-week period, which are cumulatively about 15 years of work, 8 years for Big Mouth. Adults now has been like, the first meeting I had with Ben and Rebecca, who created the show, was 4.5 years ago. And, we shot this, I Don't Understand You, like 2 years ago in Italy. So it's many, many years of projects and work coming together, culminating in a very weird 3-week bubble. And it does represent literally writing, acting, producing, directing, all in different facets. The only thing that's not in there is like the stand-up.
Well, you just did a special though, like 5 minutes ago. And that was the reason why I was asking about that, because I feel like with comics, and I've seen this with people like you or Kumail, even like Seinfeld, I feel like y'all are like, it's not like Simone Biles. Eventually she won't be able to flip like she flips now. Y'all don't want to ever not be able to flip, so y'all feel this need to like go back to stand-up. Like Kevin Hart is a perfect example of that. Like he still needs to tour.
Yes.
Because otherwise it's like I don't know, maybe that's why I feel like they all call themselves
comics
first.
Well, there's a couple things at play there. One is once you have a family, you have a great fear that like the money will run out. And so you always want to have stand-up in your back pocket, because if everything else goes away, you can at least control that and go on the road. And Kevin and Seinfeld are both hurting for cash right now.
Just about to say.
I was like, both Seinfeld and Kevin Hart, it's been a rough few years for both of them. So I'm glad that they can always go on the road and make a little dough. So it's always nice to have in your back pocket. But there's also now making things like, whether it's Adults, which takes 4.5 years to make, or making Big Mouth, which is this 72-week from the beginning of writing a season to when it comes out on Netflix. It's like a 1.5 year process. It's such a long process the immediacy of being able to go on stage that night and have an idea and tell a joke to an audience and have that interaction and build something that you're in full control of is a very gratifying and very like soothing way to sort of pair that in conjunction with these things that take a long time to gestate, a long time to make, and a long time to come out. And so that is a great, like I went and did a spot last night at Largo here in LA, and it's also a way that I see my friends. It was like it was Dan Levy's show, and on that show was Mulaney and Ali Wong and Gary Gulman and Neil Brennan and Blair Sochi, all these people who I've known, and I get to like see and we do a show together.
Wow.
And it becomes what my social life is too, in a weird way. As we all have our own lives with our own careers, it becomes a way that we can all connect and maintain friendship.
I dig that. In fact, I think the last time I may have seen you is when you were like on Kumail's, he did a Meltdown Comics.
Yes.
And I was at that and I was like, oh yeah, I saw it. And you were like a fill-in for that, I think. They called you at home or something.
Oh yeah, well I was like, I'm not giving you my material. I'll come on and around some way, but I'm not, I was at a point where I was starting to be like, no, sorry Kumail, I love you, but I'm not giving you my material for your show. But I'll be on camera in some capacity. How about
Love
that?
Dig it. Other thing I wanted to talk to you about, and again, I was obsessed with this when it came out, Olympic Dreams, which I feel like I just desperately wanted more people, because that is like such an incredible achievement. You started at the Winter Like, I don't know. If I was you, I would be like, this needs to be like the top of my IMDb. I made an Olympics movie like before, because, so first of all.
You said it.
Tell me about the reflections on that now, knowing that the Olympics is coming to LA. Do you now want to do a sequel?
Well, so the movie is like, it was Jeremy Teicher and Alexi Pappas made this movie. Alexi had been a Summer Olympian, and they came to me and they were like, we've gotten a grant from the Olympic Committee to make this thing at the Olympics. Do you want to go to, we'll do like a scriptment, very loosely scripted. You'd play like a dentist. People can volunteer to work at the Olympics. Mm-hmm. And you meet this athlete, Alexi was playing like a cross-country skier, and like they have this like very sweet kind of before sunrise thing and we shot, because it was for the Olympics itself, we had access to the Olympic Village and the dining halls and all the background that you never really get to see. It's a very highly controlled venue and event. So we got to get up close. We shot it in South Korea in 2018. We had no crew. It was the three of us. It was actually incredibly hard thing to make, because we were lugging all of our camera equipment around. We were stealing shots everywhere. And we were trying literally on the fly, being like, what are we going to make here? And I think the final product is a really sweet, beautiful movie. And it really felt like a time capsule for what this was. But it was a challenging thing. And it was in the middle of, it was also at a very weird time where me and Mulaney were about to host the Spirit Awards. And we were doing the Valentine's Day episode of Big Mouth. So it was like an incredibly busy time for me to be like, hey, I'd like to stop all that to go to South Korea for 2.5 weeks to shoot this thing. Ironically, I was at something last week randomly at some like party, and this woman came up to me and was like, I have to tell you, I love that movie Olympic Dreams that you made, and it inspired me to go and volunteer at the Olympics in LA.
Oh yeah.
So this woman saw it and was like, I want to go volunteer. I was like, it's a lot easier than South Korea.
True.
True. So every time the Olympics comes around, I definitely have a more nuanced connection to it, in a way that, like, I made this movie Uncle Drew with Kyrie Irving and a bunch of basketball players. Similarly, I have a different like way in an appreciation of, it's the beauty of making movies and doing all these things, is like it allows you to enter these other spaces and get a sense of what their lives are like, what their craft is like, and then appreciate what they do on a different level.
I love that. We're going to get out of here. And
why? Don't leave. I'm so lonely. I know. We have to move on.
One of the things I think is interesting, and you've played true to in this interview, and it was something that I thought was interesting when you said it, is that you
feel constantly hyped up on coffee and can't stop talking fast and loud.
More. I don't want to make you feel whatever, but you actually don't like giving the people the song and the dance with the voices. Like, you actually are like, no, I want to be a little withholding, because it's like, So I'm not trying to say this to do, but talk a little bit about why. Because other people, you were being interviewed with Seth MacFarlane. He was like the opposite. He was like, no, I give it up so easy.
Well, Seth is all about efficiency. He's like, what will get me out of this moment as quickly as possible? Is it Stewie? I don't know what it is.
I'm just
about
thinking to
it.
explain.
Well, now that we've come to the end of the show, maybe I'll be a little less protective of the voices.
Yeah, that's smart. Give them what they want so that then they can get their clip to start the whole thing with that they'll use in the cold open, and then they'll have to watch you talk normal. That's the smartest thing you've ever said, Coach Steve. Well, I finally learned what they want. And what they want more than anything is not you, Nick. They want the voices.
Don't be so hard on yourself. So,
Thank you so much.
you're right. It is a bit of a dog and pony show. But I also think now, again, I had to think a period of time as I was joking about Kumail, but not joking. You're like, I only have so much intellectual property. And there was a period of time where I was like, well, if you want to hear the voices, go watch the show. See them all. See with the characters making the mouth movements. But now, as I've gotten further into it, I'm like, it's silly. People do enjoy it. They like to see some of it, and so it's also a vibe. I'm like, you built nice trust here with me. You've given me. You talked about loving and Olympic dreams. So, but when people come up to me on the street, they're like, do the voice. I gotta get a picture. It's just it's all about phrasing. It's all about, would you mind taking a picture with me? You're much more likely to get a picture than, I gotta get a picture.
Fair.
It's oh, okay. I'm on your journey. Okay. Oh, we're on your journey? Oh, okay. Well, if you gotta get a picture, look at the neutral face I'll give you in this picture.
Everybody's checking their selfies now. Oh my God.
But I'm now, honestly, even in that, I don't know. I think it's now, again.
You have kids now. This is what it is.
Well, it's kids, but it's also the perspective of things like this coming to an end. And you can't assume that 8 years of doing a show, it's also my wife being you can be a little boundaried when you meet people, because I am boundaried because I don't, because I have to be boundaried for myself, for my family, for everyone. But also, the further I've gotten into all of this and now 8 years into this show and the luck and privilege I've had in my career, that it's what a joy all of this is. And these people that I made some that they liked, why I can be a little kinder and more open to them. And what a joy that they got joy from something I made. Why make this anything but as joyful an interaction as possible?
I dig it. Well, you've made this an incredibly joyful interaction. In case you can't tell, I've really loved all the seasons of all of your shows, and yeah.
So how about 100%?
You've gotten a few 100%. I think every season.
No, someone gave us a fucking review, and we're we were at 99 for a while, and it was a mixed review. It's so annoying. Either give us a bad review or give us a good review, but these mixed reviews that then get. Just give us 100% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Feels like they're edging you a little bit with that. I get it.
We do talk about edging on this season of Big Mouth. So
you did?
Yeah.